Hey everybody, Brandon here. We're back on the Cuda today. I'm going to be trying to figure out where to mount the electronic stuff. Let's get into it. Once you figured out what electronics you have going in the car, try to figure out what areas you want them in. Say for instance your fuse panel, it typically goes somewhere up here to the left of your steering column, which the steering column's out right now, but so I've got it set up here. You've got your gauge box. That's for our Dakota Digital gauges. That needs to go somewhere near your gauges. This is the door popper box, so that'll be for your shade door handles. It'll actuate the solenoids for the door poppers. So that I typically put that somewhere over here by the fuse panel. And then we have these little distribution blocks. I like to use those for like constant hot wires. And then you can just run a big cable from your battery up to that, and you can hook your smaller constant hot wires to those. And I don't know if I'll need two, but I probably won't. But anyway, and then we have like the ECM and its fuse panel in this little box. I think this cubby hole over here by the AC box will be a good place to mount that. I've got a lead on here, and it's a pretty good lead. I can move this boot around on that. So I think if I mount that up in this cubby hole, I can run my cables over and drill a hole low on the firewall, kind of behind the motor, and route my cables through there for my motor and stuff, to kind of hide all that stuff. And then you've got the AC wires. Obviously that hooks to the AC box. So somewhere in this area, I'll try to get that stuff mounted up there. And so once you figure out kind of where you want to put everything, then you can kind of start going over how you're going to mount the stuff. That's what I'll show you next. Take some poster board here and cut us out just a little chunk of this. It doesn't have to be precise, just rough shape, kind of, so we don't have to keep fighting all this harness. What we'll do is take our bolts out of here. I was thinking that this fuse panel came with a template for your bolt holes, but I could not find one in the box. So we're just going to set that stuff aside for now and kind of get us a rough shape here. What I'm going to do is kind of trace around everything here. Just so you kind of know how big your fuse panel is. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I want to take this right here and right here. I'm going to press down real hard. And that's going to give us a little, I don't know if you can see, but it leaves a little indentation. We can take our Sharpie and mark the center there. And then we're just going to like to put top on everything, so I know which way it goes in here. And just kind of cut this out. This can be arts and crafts for today. Alright, now you got your two holes. You got the shape of your deal there. Now you can use this to find you a spot. It didn't take long to make this, and it's so much easier to use this as opposed to dragging this whole wiring harness around in the car. Let's get back to it. So the fuse panel, I found a spot right here that it fits pretty nice. So I had to clear the emergency brake stuff, and then it's got this little kick out right here. I don't know what that's for yet, but it's got something that goes there. I don't know, or had something that went there. So I think that's gonna be a pretty good spot, because it's got plenty of room to go ahead. The wires have plenty of room to wrap up around. You know, they're not going to be all bound up there, and I just have to figure out a way to mount that now. So yeah, that'll be the next project probably. So let me figure that out and we'll get back to it. Alright, I think I figured out what I want to do down here on the fuse panel. I've made me some notes, so I'm going to transfer my notes onto my paper here. Hey, let me know in the comments if anyone has trouble with Sharpies not lasting as long as they used to. Man, you could get a Sharpie and that thing would last forever. It didn't matter if the tip was completely gone, you could still write with it. And now it's like, man, you use the thing 2 or 3 times and it quits writing. I have that trouble all the time. Alright, so there's our bracket. That's basically what it's going to look like. I don't know if you can see that. And then we'll make another square piece for basically this, the bolt. We'll weld these 2 pieces together, and then the fuse panel will bolt to that. So, alright, there we go. It's got a good little lean on it there, so yeah, it's gonna work good. Let's get that transferred over to some metal and get that cut out. Go ahead and make my square piece for the fuse panel to set on. Okay, I'm gonna this stuff cut out. Okay, so here's what I've got going so far. This is my bracket I've been up, so this will bolt to the firewall. This piece, I drilled these holes here. This will get spot welded, kind of like so. Ended up, what I did was I taped this piece of cardboard here. I taped that where my marks were on I got a mark there and one there. So that's my bolt holes. So I taped that down on there. Bolted this into the firewall, and then I positioned this where I liked it, and it actually it's kind of sticks out there off of the panel just a little, but man, by the time I get all those spot welds put on here, it's not going anywhere. And that's 18 gauge, so I think that's plenty sturdy enough to hold the fuse panel. And then I went ahead, I welded nuts on the panel here. Whenever I do this, I put a little piece of tape on there so that welding BBs don't mess the threads up, and then it screws your nut up whenever you back the bolt back out. So tape that up, welded the nuts on, and then there's actually a part in the inner fender that you don't see. It's not part of the firewall. I guess it's part of the firewall, but it's in the inner fender, so you don't see it from the engine compartment. So this will get bolted basically up in the inner fender. So anyway, that's what I got. I'm about to spot weld this on here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so here's our finished product. I did go ahead, I put weld through primer on both pieces. Just it's going to be inside the car, but I just wanted for it to be protected in there. I went ahead and drilled the holes for the fuse panel to bolt down. About to get that on here just to kind of mock it up and see what it fits like, and I'll show you the finished product in just a minute. Okay, there it is, all installed. I'm pretty happy with it. It's angled down good, so you can see this is like right under the dash, and it's easily visible. You can kind of see down here where it mounts, and up top, I don't know, you can see there's the bolt there on top. So yeah, kind of sticks out away from the firewall just a little bit, but man, I like it. So yeah, that's that. Moving on. Okay, so here's the passenger side cubby hole here. I went ahead, I mounted the ECM up here, flat up against the cowl panel. So see if you can, that's through the glove box door. I went ahead and mounted it like this, so you can still get to all of your whatever you have to plug in here to, you know, do some tuning or whatever. Fuse panels mounted. Let's see if this thing will focus. Fuse panels mounted back here, and then that little box is mounted there, and then all my wiring will go up behind the AC box. So I'll tuck all that up later, and just got it laying down here on the floor for now. Something else I do have to do, I've got to cut a hole for this grommet somewhere in this area right in here, so that the harness can go through to the motor engine. So yeah, got all that. So I've been looking at this, trying to figure out where I can put my gauge box. I'm kind of thinking right here. I can get all my screws easily. I think it'll be easy to wire. Another thing, I've set the factory gauges back in there just to make sure that I have plenty of room. My gauges aren't going to hit this if I put this here. But I've got a bolt right here for the steering column brace, and I have a hole right here, right here. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to make me a Z-shaped bracket, and just bolt that right there to that. I think that's a good spot. Let me show you how I'm going to make this. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take our tape measure, and we're going to measure from the back side of this plate over here to our bracket here. It's about 10 3/4. So we're going to come back to our poster board here. I'm gonna do so that right there is basically our bracket. The marker holes. All right, here's our piece of metal. I went ahead and marked 2 inches on both ends. I'll use the vise and break that over pretty easy. What I'm going to do now is I had marked where my bolt holes are. I'll go ahead and lay that on my template. Lay my template on my piece of metal and transfer those marks on my little center punch. We'll do the other end. Okay. And we'll mark that with a marker so I can see where those are. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and drill my holes. Drill my holes first. Put those on a board here so I don't drill holes in the table. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but I actually use a corded drill sometimes for certain things. Okay, so whenever I use these step bits, I like to, so I'm drilling a 5/16 hole. So what I do is I'm marking my 5/16 step with my Sharpie, and then you know you get to that mark, you're where you need to be. And I do have another mark, but I know not to go to that mark. So holes are drilled. And there we go. So here's a little bracket. I don't think it'll be too flimsy. It's 18 gauge, nothing fancy. I'm gonna go ahead with the grinder and kind of soften those edges a little bit. And we'll get back in the car and see how it fits. Alright, I got it bolted in. I went ahead and took the box and put it up here where I kind of like it. Got my holes marked. So right now I'm just gonna take my drill. I drilled a couple of pilot holes in this and just put self-tapping screws in to hold the piece in. got that part done for now. This will probably get torn back apart. Everything will get cleaned out and painted and insulated. All the firewall will get cleaned up, sealed, insulated, and everything will go back in. Next up is this door popper box. Figure out a spot to put it. This, I generally drill 2 holes and run a zip tie through, so I have to get to the front and the back of this. So, yeah. Kind of thinking about putting it right here. It's a good little cubby hole for it. And I can get to the front and the back of that. It'll be easy to wire everything. I think that's what I'll do. Cut the marks here for that point. Alright. Mortar. I think that'll work. Okay. I'm not going to zip tie that in right now because I'll just have to cut the zip ties and replace them later. But I know that that's where that will go now. So, I got that done. Got the gauge box, got the door popper box. Okay, I think I got it all kind of wrapped up here. I actually found a nut right there. It was some kind of little strap. I think it went to the factory air conditioning box, but we don't need that strap anymore. So I utilized that bolt, and there's 2. Let's see if I can find 2 screws that hold the air conditioner in. Here's one. The other one is behind that red deal. I think you can see it through the hole there. Let me get up in here so you can kind of see. Yeah, see, it's right there. But it lines up perfect with the other side of this, so I'm gonna find a longer screw and just utilize that hole so it'll still hold the AC, and it'll hold my little distribution block. And then as far as the AC stuff, I went ahead, I mounted the little breaker piece, the little breaker right there. Just self-tap screwed it into the cowl. This cowl is all sealed up. It's all, there's no holes outside anymore, so it won't get water down in there. So, and then here's the relay for the air conditioner. I just went ahead and put it right there. So yeah, and then there's some wire holders up here. Let's see if I can show you. Yeah, here we go. The factory, and there's one down here. So those will hold the wires. There's one right here too that I can use to hold my wires and stuff. So that's kind of all the wiring stuff is kind of mounted and tucked away. I think it's all fairly easy to get to. Something else that I like to do when I'm wiring is right here. This is just a ground stud. I like to try to drill some kind of hole somewhere up in the dash and I'll run a bolt from the back side through, and it's just a 5/16 bolt, runs through. I tighten the bolt to that piece, and then I have this nut here. You can take this off, and any wires that you have that you need to ground, I make sure I strip all the whatever you got, paint or primer or whatever. I wire wheel that really good so that it's got a good ground, and later I'll probably put some like dielectric grease or something just around that, just to keep it from rusting. I may pull this bolt back out and put some under the bolt too, just so that it keeps a good ground. You always want to have good grounds. So yeah, that's what those are for. I got one on this side. There was a little bracket here that I could get to the back side easy. So I put one on this side, and then right there's the one on the, you can kind of see my wire welded all good with the other ground right there. So it's always nice to have some grounding spots where you don't have to put self-tapping screws everywhere to hold grounds, and you know, it's always, I mean, you can see I've got all these wires, these 2 watt wires in fact are grounds. So just the crazy amount of ground wires that you'll have, like a lot of those will have some sort of ground. So yeah, I will just put those in there for ease. But yeah, so we got the ECM, and we have the pieces mounted on the firewall there that go to that. We have our distribution block. We get the relay there. We have the right here is our breaker for the air conditioner, and then over here we have our bracket that we made. We got the gauge box on there. We got our fuse panel mounted down here, and then the last piece was the box for our door poppers, and it'll go right here and just zip tie on there, and we'll run that antenna out. So that's it. Everything's easily accessible. If you ever have to get to this box for any reason, it's just a few screws and you can pull the gauge cluster out. Not, you know, it's nothing complicated. And then the rest of it you can get to under the dash there. Your breaker, you should never have to really mess with that. The ECM, I don't know if this will get a glove box or not. Even if it does, you can still reach right under here and you can get to all of your plugs just right here under the dash. You got breakers right there. Those are easily accessible. Yeah, I'm real happy with how that turned out. That's our wiring, and now we get the fun job to pull all this back out of here. So anyway, that's this video. Hope you've enjoyed. If you like this or have any comments, questions, complaints, whatever you got, throw it at me. You know, hit me up in the comments, and like and subscribe. We'll see how many of these videos we can make. See you later.